I'd like to call to order the Parishwide Drainage Committee meeting for Thursday, April 7th, 2022. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir. Mr. Barris?
Here.
Mr. Barchi?
Here.
Mr. Burley?
Here.
Mr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Marcantel?
Here.
Mr. Richard?
Here.
And Chairman Landry.
Here.
Everyone's present.
Okay, item 1, receive report from staff regarding the Regional Watershed Planning and Strategic Analysis Initiative. Mr. Wainwright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate having an opportunity today. We're going to, you've been briefed on this recently, but this is going to be a summarized version for you. And it's really an update for you and the public on the watershed planning effort, where we are today, where we're going, to catch everyone up on the status of everything. Today, presenting the presentation is going to be John Hornsby with Fenstermaker, who has done the work. Fenstermaker's been on our team since day one, and so it's about 11 to 15 minutes, depending on which version she gives you, and after that, we'll be glad to take questions, whatever's necessary after that. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Alan, for that introduction. As he said, we're going to try and keep it brief. Some of y'all have seen bits and pieces of this, but it's mostly just to give you an introduction of, where y'all have been, some of your accomplishments, and then kind of what our next steps are. So that's what the presentation is going to cover. We want to talk about your 2015 drainage mission, and then also go through kind of the steps that we've had to take through this master plan, where we're currently at, and then we're going to end with the implementation. And I'm going to introduce a webinar series that's going to be coming out that is going to be to take a deeper dive. So right now we're talking high level, but those webinars are going to cover more detailed information. So in 2015, the police jury adopted your drainage mission as well as your guiding principles. This is really important. This was the baseline of your foundation of what was the goal of everything. And these things were, hey, we want to protect our people. We want to ensure that what we're doing protects our generations to come. And at the same time, we want to balance that economic growth and flood protection. So these principles have been really important of the steps we've taken and how your master plan has been mapped out, as well as the steps that we're taking as we go forward into the future. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the project phasing and our timeline. This is a 5-phase process. We started off with planning. We had some workshops with the police jury was involved, mayors, stakeholders, the drainage districts came in, and we identified goals. We talked about how we were going to take those steps to move forward. A lot of data collection was completed. This included field survey data all the way to GIS data. The next is the big chunk. It was the modeling. We wanted to create models. That way we could make informed decisions of what projects worked, ensuring that those projects don't hinder someone, and at the same time, what's our risk? What's the risk today? And what is your potential risk 50 years from now? What does your flood zone look like in the future? So that's really important. That's what those models are meant for. The project selection and looking at which projects are analyzed, which ones have the best benefit, how much do they cost? That's where we're at right now. Those models are complete, and we're starting to use those models. And then final, that implementation, finding the funding, getting them constructed. So this timeline that I'm showing here kind of gives you an idea of where we started and the last 4 years and kind of where we're at right now. A couple of keynotes, LWI, the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. This was extremely important because it also helped guide us. We didn't want to duplicate work. We wanted to supplement what they're doing. So that was a really important thing. Other things that COVID changed how we were operating. We couldn't meet face-to-face. We couldn't have workshops. So we had to change our scope a little bit. Hurricanes. This has also changed kind of the direction we were going in because y'all are now getting federal funding. Federal funding guidelines are different. So we want to make sure that the master plan you have is in line with those federal funds. So those different pieces are going along. Where we're at right now, we're starting to screen projects. We're starting to see what are our next steps and which ones do we move forward. So what took part in that modeling progress? In 2006, y'all were ahead of the curve already. Y'all started doing models. The models, The technology then gave us gaps. We really couldn't see where was all the flooding. Now, our modeling technology has improved greatly. We can now tell full flood extents through a watershed. This helps us make decisions. So a lot of investment has been made to these models because they're your toolkit. It's a great toolkit to have. This shows the 12 watersheds and the progress that we've made to date. As you can see, some of the watersheds, the modeling is complete. The ones that are 99%, they're entering the final quality control process, and the rest of them are coming up with modeling to be completed by the end of the month. Also, part of the planning process, it was determined that we should start with a pilot study. Let's see, how do our models react? The Lake Charles watershed was selected as the base for that pilot study. We went in, we set up models, we looked at projects, we began to screen projects, and look, how does policy play into our future? How do projects play, and how do programs? And those are important because that has been the guiding pieces for how we're going forward. Another deliverable was a technical memorandum. We like to call it the cookbook. So from what we learned in the pilot study, we saw what projects were working, which ones had the biggest benefit. Was it pumps? Was it elevating homes? Was it policy? And this outlined those different types of projects and started to identify them. Over 600 projects have been identified within this technical memorandum. Now we're going to start screening them, bringing that list down. So a couple of watershed strategies. In the technical memorandum, different types of strategies were looked at for flood mitigation. Not one single thing will make a difference. It's not just the projects. It's not just the policy. It takes everything together. So projects could be anything from detention, floodgates, pump stations. Non-structural projects are things like elevating and buying out houses, a maintenance program, or changes to your policy. And the figure at the top kind of brings that all together. It takes all of these working together for flood mitigation. So your ongoing successes. In the beginning, one of the things we decided was we are not going to wait for this plan to be done for us to start making changes, for us to start doing things. So y'all keep hearing policy, projects, and programs. It's like a three-pronged stool. It takes all of these to keep those things standing, and that's what y'all are continuing to do. So what are your successes? One of the best ones I can tell you is you stopped managing water based on boundaries, political boundaries, and started looking at it from a watershed standpoint. Great move. This has been great progress as long as looking at your ordinances. Where are your ordinances at? Where do they need to go? Y'all have made great improvements. Some we're starting to look at and saying, okay, maybe that ordinance isn't best for a coastal zone. It's okay. These discussions are going through and you're making this. This is success. Programs. Some of the things that y'all have done, y'all have implemented some buyout and elevation programs. These are huge. They're to protect people where projects don't solve their problems. So Greenwich Terrace is being funded through the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. You also have HMGP money that is being used for these buyouts and elevations. A little over 175 homes are in the program right now. You have over 1,800 that are on the list as repetitive losses. So we're breaking them down, but we've got a long way to go. Other things, maintenance programs. This is something that we went to the field, we worked with the drainage districts, parish staff, we looked, we investigated every structure within the entire parish, and started looking at maintenance programs and processes. In addition, y'all have started the debris removal. This is a good project because it's helping. It's helping both things that maybe weren't maintained in the past, but also getting out the debris from the hurricanes. Your success in projects. Again, I said we didn't want to wait for the end to start implementing things. So street level projects were a big benefit. Looking at areas where we saw repetitive loss homes, looking at areas where we saw frequent flooding and targeting those for street level projects. These have been really important and our ongoing process you're going to continue to do year after year. In addition, funding that's came down from the hurricanes, there's been projects that have been selected and are currently being screened for their benefit. These projects include everything from detention to channel widening. It's a variety of projects. They're being screened right now. We're trying to select which ones will move forward for funding through FEMA. So projects and consequence modeling. As I mentioned, that cookbook, it identified a variety of types of projects, from pump station locations to detention ponds, channel widening, an assortment of projects. These stars just kind of represent the target areas that some of these projects are located in. During the webinar, we're going to dive in deeper. Where are some of these projects located? What are some of the benefits that we might see from these types of projects? But as you can see, it's across the parish. And these projects are important because as we go through and analyze them, we're trying to make sure they meet the right funding sources that you have and going forward. So the implementation process. So we want to start talking with y'all. We're going to meet, do a webinar series. This will be live. It will also be recorded. So if you can't attend, someone can view it at another time. It's going to target the stakeholders, the public, as well as professionals in our community. So we can talk a little more technical, but also start making informed decisions based on the models and the information that we have in front of us. So please join us. It'll be held on May 11th. As I said, if you cannot attend, it will be recorded, and there'll be a series of these to come. They'll cover policy, programs, and projects. So we really look forward to everybody participating and getting feedback so that we can make decisions. So again, a quick summary. If y'all have any questions or want to discuss anything, please let me know.
Mr. Markentile?
Yes, the Greenwich Terrace, for those folks who do not accept the buyout, is there any project that we've identified that will eliminate that flooding over there?
So the Greenwich Terrace location is an area that has been looked at for a number of years by everybody from the Corps to AECOM, even Fenstemaker, and other consultants have looked. You're talking about 2 to 4 feet of water in these homes. The projects to eliminate that, even doubling the pump station capacity, only reduces it by a foot. So there is some of those homes, depending on the homes you're talking about and where they're located, that is the option that they have right now. There are discussions of what to do with the property after the fact. LWI has strict rules on how that property can be utilized. Of course, they don't want you rebuilding on it, but are there other flood mitigation pieces that can help further within the neighborhood for those streets that maybe weren't in that program?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other questions for Ms. Hornsby? That it? Any questions from the staff?
Yeah, we can, just some things on the implementation Brian asked me to cover, and I think it'd be good. So as we're in that last phase, as we move into, right now, you notice we're in phase 4 and 5. 5 is really building projects and doing projects and implementing programs, and even adjusting our ordinances. Our goal for the rest of the year is to spend some time in these webinar series to really communicate, have some good discussion with both the technical community, the public, and pin down our highest priority projects. The list is long that we can look at, but to pin down where we want to start. Some of the starting lines for these projects are going to represent projects that we can maybe accomplish in the next couple years. It's as simple as finding, I'm going to say just a couple $1 million, and it's a design, and you find a place for a detention pond, and it's relatively easy to accomplish, and it would accomplish the goal. Some of the projects, like was just asked, another set of pump stations on Coyote Coulee is going to be, that's as hard as getting I-10 bridge replaced in the degree of difficulty. So, but if you don't start, you will never get it done either. So they're going to starting to push these forward this year. Our goal is by the time your budget comes out this year for 2023 to have new initiatives in there with new projects identified that we begin to move forward. To move them forward means generally environmental impacts, BCA analysis, and those sorts of things that really get us to a point of design, maybe shovel ready, and then again we have to find that last bit of funding. At the same time, we will be reviewing all the ordinances we have now. Jean went through it, and it was on one of those slides, but I think a key ingredient now is for us to make another effort at having good baseline ordinances across the parish, not just in the parish, but across the parish, our municipalities as well. We've learned in the last couple of years since ours has been in place that some of them work really well, some of them need adjusting. We're willing to do that, and we're going to, hopefully bring some revisions and/or new ideas to the table in terms of ordinances. One of the things I'd like to look at personally is making them easier to be completed, maybe a little less, little bit more cookbook for the average person, and not so much engineering study need to be done for every home or every development. So we want to simplify, I guess is the word I'm looking for a little bit, but get the same results. So that combined with probably the last thing that I'd like to highlight is that a local buyout program for repetitive loss claims is probably something we really need to push at and find a way to do, because while Jean alluded to it, we have 1,800 structures on that list now. We got roughly 175 on the list to be done at some level. We're not winning that battle as we get major floods, and so that list is growing. And the federal program is just not nimble enough, if you would, to go fast and to knock out the problem quick enough. I mean, it's just a shame that you have to flood 3 times to get through that process. So maybe we can get that down to quicker, easier if we go with some a local approach. So those are some of the things we're going to be talking about in depth in the webinars and discussing more to eventually bring back for you, the committee, and the full jury for approval and moving forward with.
Good.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman? Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I can say I'm the Crowder Gulf people are in my neck of the woods right now, and the amount of debris that's coming out of Shoe Peak Bay is staggering. I hate to word it like this, but it's I don't think we would have had this type of access or equipment at our disposal had we not gone through what we've gone through in the hurricanes. But it's a lot, and I'm hoping that we can maybe take advantage of this access and kind of see the condition of our waterways and our laterals, and I mean, if they're top of bank width issues in some places that weren't before, just things like that, just taking advantage of, like I said, the access. And but it's an eye opener, man, just what's laying in that bay, and everything that's, I got to fly over it, and just because you don't see anything for a stretch doesn't mean there's nothing under there, and it's unbelievable the truckloads that are coming out of there. So,
well, we if you don't mind, we certainly agree with you. That project, I've said it, which may very well end up being a $250 million program by the time this is over with, if we're able to complete it all, is unprecedented in Calcasieu Parish. It's been a curse, but it'll be a blessing at the end if we can get that done. So, and I think the key is not to lose that progress going forward. And so whatever it takes to stay focused on the ball and not lose what we're getting out of this is to me the key. And that's things we want to work toward with our gravity drainage districts, that the maintenance programs can step up and keep the gains we're getting.
Mr. Bean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since we had the time, I thought it would be helpful if Alan or Jean could comment on the modeling. This is a multi-year effort, and I know when we talked in our meetings and meetings with you, it's kind of hard to understand, but it's so important. And what I mean is, can either of y'all answer the value of this modeling? Because 3 years ago we could have said, well, let's do these projects or these, but What is it that gives us now that we didn't have before? Because I think it's a lot, but it's not clear, I think, what that is.
Yeah, I'll take the question. So y'all, investment in modeling is something that helps you make decisions. They're informed decisions. Right now, you know, even the state is realizing that as they're going on the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. Y'all started this in 2006, doing modeling. So like I said, y'all have been ahead of the curve. And the biggest piece that you're getting from that, the models now can tell you risk. So, all right, do I flood? Do I not flood? It's a question most homeowners want to know. What's my risk? How often will I flood? So that's one thing that it's doing. The other thing is it's allowing you to determine which projects have the best benefit for the cost that you're about to invest in it. That is huge, because without the model, we can say, hey, good, let's dig a 300-acre pond. But we've done actually analysis that says you can dig a 100-acre pond and get the exact same benefit as the 300-acre pond. There's a point that it's a diminish on your return. So the models help you understand that. Why would you want to build something 3 times or invest in that money if you're not getting the benefit? The other thing is it helps us ensure that the project you do in one location doesn't negatively impact someone else somewhere else, someone somewhere downstream, which is important within your parish and then also, you know, for your neighbors. So those are some of the key benefits that you are investing in and how they're going to be used. The other thing is the technology has gone from being extremely complex to being extremely user-friendly. So the great thing is it's not something that you're going to have to keep hiring a fence maker to go and run and make these decisions. Your parish staff is going to be able to take those models and plug a project in and see if it'll work and look at those different things. So the technology has gotten so great. I tell everybody, we've got the technology, we've got the resources. No one should flood and say, I didn't know I was going to flood. So that's kind of some of the benefits that you're going to get from having this. Alan, you want to add anything? Or?
Just that it's hard to totally quantify the difference in the old style modeling, which you referred to in 2006 and now. You know, the technology difference is in 2006, we literally had to go survey and take cross sections of every lateral to be able to do it. And where the cross sections, where we had them, you had decent information and you had a pretty valid model. But everything outside of those cross sections, it might have been 1,000 foot wide along a lateral. Well, we know there's miles and miles that were not surveyed. Everything else had to be assumed. Well, in modern technology, the LiDAR data that you, the police jury, recently flew in 2016, the original version of that was done by, I'm going to say, LSU and whoever. That was in 2000. That was the old LiDAR data that a lot of things were based off of. And prior to that, it was only based off of old quad maps, they called them. But modern technology, we flew the parish ourselves in 2016 and basically got the entire footprint of the parish, the topography mapped out to high-level accuracy. Those models run off of that data now. So while we had to take supplemental cross-sections, the models and the power of these computers, it literally can take a raindrop from anywhere, fall anywhere in this parish and tell you its path, you know, that it's going to take to the lateral and out to the river. That just gives an engineer who knows what to do with that information and how to run those models unbelievable amount of data at their fingertips to study. At the end of the day, every project that's going to get funded at any level beyond your own level will require some amount of modeling to be done to get the funds. So we're ahead of the game there, and that's what it really allows us to do. So when we pick a project, we should have a pretty high level of confidence of the results it'll get us, and then again, it won't hurt anyone downstream, which is a big part of our goal. And as you know, as y'all know, y'all get approached a lot from anyone who has a problem with their idea of, you know, what would fix the problem. And it's nice to be able to test those in the modeling without testing them in real life where they're so much more expensive. So Again, there's tremendous benefit, you know, really, the police jury, Calcasieu Parish is at the forefront of the technology in drainage throughout the state. We may not be the only ones there, but I certainly, like one of my old ag teachers used to say, we're not in a class by ourselves, but it doesn't take long to call roll. So, you know, we're doing good. And I appreciate the support over the years that y'all have given us to do that. Thank you.
Any other questions? One last thing, Mr. Wainwright. I think today, didn't y'all have like a pre-bid conference on our first regional
Yes, sir.
detention?
I don't know the results of that, but yes, sir, you're right about the
Okay,
meeting.
I was told there was like quite a few contractors that showed up, so there seems to be a lot of interest in it, which that's a good thing. Hopefully, we'll get a good price back.
Yes, sir.
And do you know when it's gonna go out for bid? I was told, and I do not remember the date. I think it's soon.
It's within about 2 weeks.
It's within
Yeah,
a couple of
It's very
weeks, so
close. Very close.
That's good for that to finally move forward and hopefully give some people some relief. What is it, about a year and 18-month project, I think? Is that correct, or?
To construct it, yes, sir. That's the long schedule. Hopefully, it'll get done. We'll get some dry weather and get done on ahead of schedule.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if there's not any more questions, we just need a motion to
Move to
adjourn.
adjourn?
We are adjourned.